Hi everybody, this is Flash001 USA. It's March the 7th, 2013. I wanted to give you one more update on the Gasifier project, and the next time that you see it, it will be up and running. And I've got a couple of things left to do to it. They're really minor things, such as I want to get out here and do the cosmetics. And if you can look, you'll see the rust on the top of the wood hopper where the lid is right there. I'm going to buff that out of it, and then I'm going to spray paint this thing to seal it from the elements. The next thing that I need to do is make some legs so that I can get this thing raised up, and I'm going to have this where I can bolt this thing to a platform. That's the two major things that I need to get done to it. Also, I'm going to put me some gasket material on the ash removal port down here and do the same thing on the wood hopper lid right here. I've already got the stuff to do it with, I just got to do it, and this will be the weekend to get it done. The only other major thing that I've got to do to it, this is my input right here. This is my oxygen input. I've got me a piece, and I wish I'd have brought it down here. I just forgot it. It's upstairs. But it's basically a baffle that will screw in to be able to shut all the air off to the air nozzles, or I can back it out to let it have all the air that can go into it. And that's the only major thing that I've got left to do to it. Now, I did take some shots of this thing internally, including inside where I've got the ash grate and everything. This way you can see this thing and see how everything operates, and it's really good. I'm extremely pleased with it. And of course, that's my grate shaker right there, and I'm going to show you the back side of this thing here so that you can see where I ignited at. Oh, wait a minute, there's another one. Yes, I did. I'll give you a little bit more information on this one a little bit later. I've got a completely different design for this one, and I've already got all the pieces. So when I go to do this thing, hopefully you guys are going to see two totally different designs up and running, and I'm going to see which one fares out the best. And the one that I'm building now is some of my own design, and I'm going to call it the J-tube design. And a little bit more on that later, but not right now. So with that said, let me show you the ignition port on this thing. And I got to get a light over here so I can not have shadows. All right, there's the ignition port, just like the other one, except this one was on the back. I had to put it on the back because of the real estate with the copper lines that are in there to feed oxygen to the input nozzles. So I had to put this on the back of it, but there you go. As always, some of this stuff that I do to it is for cosmetics, and some of it is just to make sure that I've got a good stout build, like when I put these steel rings on stuff, like this right here. I did that because I always overcut the holes for pipes running in and out of it. This way I have a little play because nothing's perfect, no matter how you try to measure it. So I oversize a little bit, and then of course this ring here, it's cut so tight that I just literally had to force it over the pipe, and then I followed it up with RTV cement. And what that does, it guarantees an absolute seal, and this thing gives a little bit more tensile strength to the barrel because now you added another layer of steel to it. That's why I did that. Now let's go to the top of it, and I'm going to show you something else here. Got me a handle on it, and I got me a spring on it so that this guy pulls down to keep a good seal. And all I have to do is grab him. I've got a key ring hooked onto the spring. I just lift him up, drop him off, and what I did is I cut a notch in here, okay? And of course, that allows the door to swing open and close, and I'll get a little bit into that into the video here shortly also. But there it is. I want you guys to get a look at this thing and see what I've done so far with my progress. And for all practical purposes, other than minor stuff, it's ready to fire up. The weather's been a big factor here. We've had so much rain, and like a lot of you guys, I know everybody across the country's had snow, rain, all sorts of things. And since I don't really have a shop, as you can see, this is my studio, okay? I mean, this is where the band practices and all the music things happen in here, so this is a no-no to be doing any drilling or cutting in here. There's no dust or anything. And of course, there's my studio room on the other side over here. So no way, Jose, do I get in here and do anything that's smoking, drilling, cutting. I'll do some minor stuff in this room, but no way do I want to dirty that up, because this room here, I try to keep it clean at all times. This was an exception, and I don't mind doing some work as long as I can immediately clean it up and get it off the floor here. But there it is, people. The only thing that's been my hold up is I don't have what I would call a true workshop, and my workshop is the great outdoors. So on that note, we're going to move forward. I'm going to let you see a couple things about this gasifier. I'm going to let you see the internal workings of it. Okay, this is the shaker arm assembly. Now, you notice you got the long piece, and you got this guy here, then you go here and out like this, like a set of stairs almost. This is the guy that's going to be inside of the unit to shake the grate back and forth, and this guy here is what gives you the rotating effect back and forth. Now this piece here, he protrudes through this guy right here from the inside to come out. So basically, to be able to assemble this thing, this guy's got to come off. I've already unbolted him to keep the video simpler. And I'll have to go inside the door and from the inside pull him through so that this piece here is sticking out here. What you're looking at is the ash grate along with the shaker arm assembly for this new gasifier that I've just constructed. And rather than trying to draw up a set of plans, I felt that a video would be the better avenue of explaining how to build this thing. Besides that, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. A video is going to be worth many more. With that said, let's get started, and I'm going to explain this one section at a time, starting with this guy right here. This is the ash grate itself, and for mine I used a 6-inch end cap for a wood stove. This is what you normally use in a room that's not being used with a wood stove, so you can keep the smell of creosote out of the house, or some people like to use them in the summertime when they're not using a wood stove. They'll basically disconnect it and cap their fireplace off, their chimney off, so the smell of creosote doesn't come back through the house. With that said, this one is 6 inches. Let you see it right here. And I think they're about 2 inches deep. Let's see here. Yeah, right at 2 inches deep. Now, you'll notice there's holes drilled in this thing for the ash and the embers to be able to fall through. You don't want to go in this thing and just drill random. There's a better way of doing that, and I'm going to show you exactly how. What I did, went to my computer, and I use Microsoft Publisher, but you could use 1,000 billion zillion programs to do the same thing. I drew me up a template. Notice I got little bullseyes and everything, okay? What I did is I cut this out with a pair of scissors. Before any of this stuff was mounted on here, I flipped them upside down, and I taped them on here, okay? So he was taped up here like this. I took a small punch and put indentations all the way around this thing on every single one of these guys. Then I took a 1/8 inch drill bit and I made me pilot holes in this thing. I turned back around and I drilled out 3/8 inch holes on this thing for the embers and stuff. I started to use a 1/2 inch size, but it was just too much, trust me. Don't need it. I didn't have it on my other one. Besides that, with all these holes, it's not going to have any issues with it getting clogged up. Now, with that said, we're going to look at some other parts here. Notice there's 3 hooks. Okay? Each one of these guys is set off from 120 degrees offset from the other one. And that gives you a total of 360 degrees. So 120, 240, 360. Now, inside of my unit down here, I've got the chains that are hanging, and this guy will hang up on it. But there's a little trick I did on this. Notice I've got these hooks. See this? They're these like 59-cent hooks, okay? I took them and spread them open just big enough for the chain to go in there. So when it's hanging, it'll hang like this right here. But it can't come off. And it can't slide forward because I've got a washer right here held in place with a couple of nuts. So I did that on all 3 of them. Now, if you notice on the inside of them, you drill the holes, tighten them up, make sure they're all facing down. These are about a 1/2 inch up from the bottom, something like that. It's not critical. As you build this yourself, you'll do it to your own taste and for your own specifications. I think the whole idea that I want to drive home here is exactly how to do this because it works perfect and then some. Now, this funny looking thing here, he was nothing more than a big old piece of straight threaded rod, okay? And basically I want you to get a good look at him and see what I did here. I'm going to try to give you the side view of it. Now I'm going to explain how this works. And this piece here will go in like this, and I'm hoping the video shows up good on this. Where I've got my fingers right here, he will represent the piece of steel that's going through the barrel itself that holds this steel, and what happens is this rotates back and forth and shakes it. Okay? That's how this works. Now this stuff here is hard to bend without breaking it, so what you got to do is heat it up with a torch and bend it real slow. And then to get this opened up here, I basically took a pair of pliers and a drill bit and I put it up in there and bent it to keep him opened and keep him uniform. Now I'm going to tell you the size that I made mine right here, and this may help you. It's right at about 5.5 inches, okay? And then the side piece here is sticking out about 3 inches, so you figure 16 inches was the total length of this, and then everything was bent to be shaped like this. Now, the way this works is when this guy's hanging off the chains, he's free hanging, and this will just bounce back and forth like this, especially as you swing this around like this. I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back together. I'm going to pause the video out, and I'm going to put him back inside the unit, and then I'm going to put the camera inside of the barrel itself and let you see this thing in action. It's very cool, and the good thing about it is, like I said from my previous videos, I designed this thing to be worked on. I designed this thing where I could just get in there at the drop of a hat, pull these pipe pieces off and replace them, fix them, modify them, etc., and then some more, etc. With that said, I'm going to pause out and we're going to come back and you're going to see this thing in action. Okay, I've got the shaker grate assembly put back into place here, so everything is hooked up, the linkage is ready to go. I'm going to get inside here and hopefully you'll be able to see this and make sense of it. Naturally, you're looking at the bottom of the grate. So bear with me as I spin this camera, people. I'm flying blind here, okay? What I want you to see right now is exactly the way this thing comes inside here. The way there you go. This is on the inside of the barrel, and I'm spinning the handle on the outside. You can see it shaking the arm. So I can get this in focus, I need to get further away from it so you can see this thing in action. Okay, I will do the slow motion so you can see it. You can see this is going to shake the ever-loving dog poop out of this thing, okay? Now let's take a look at this guy here. And this thing works really good. Now there's another way of shaking this thing too, and that's just by going back and forth. And to me, I found that to be the most effective way with the other one because you're actually putting vibration into it. And when you turn the handle all the way around, it's good for stirring the ashes up and spreading them out across the whole bottom. But when you take this guy and go just back and forth, it's like a salt and pepper shaker. I mean, it just shakes everything clean. But there it is. I hope this makes sense to you. And as I said, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is going to be worth many more. I think this is just the best way, you know, to let you guys see this thing in actual operation. And for those of you that are seriously considering doing this, hopefully this will help you, okay? So there you go. On that note, I'm going to pause out and I'm going to get out of this thing before I suffocate. Actually, I want to go to the top of this and let you look down into it while I shake it. So I'm going to pause out here. Okay, I'm trying to give you an up-front close of this thing in action so you can see this shaker grate assembly working up on the top of it. So you're looking right down the throat of this thing. So here we go. I'm going to spin it slow first. I'm going to back the camera off so that the can doesn't shake it. I'm rotating it 360. I'm going to do it faster. Now, there's another way of shaking this, and that's instead of spinning the handle, is going back and forth with it, oscillating it. And this puts a lot of vibration on it, and it'll shake it like a pepper shaker. Watch this. To me, that's the most effective way. Like, when you're rotating it, it's good for spreading the ashes out and making them go across the bottom of the grate on an even lay. But when you shake it back and forth, that really gets the ashes out of there. So there you go. This is a demonstration of it. And I've got to tell you right now, the assembly, when I built the first one up for the first gasifier, it worked great. So I decided to apply this to this setup here. It's my own design. I built this just right off the top of my head, and I felt that it was a good setup. So I decided to go with it. But there you go, people. Hope this video has helped you. I made the wood hopper lid for the gasifier today, and before I mount it up, I want you guys to see the individual pieces, and then once I put it together, I'll make another short clip so you can see this thing in action. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is I'm going to let you look at it. Okay, get a good look. I'm going to flip it upside down and do the same thing. Now, this is pretty straightforward actually. This is nothing but the bottom of a propane cylinder that I cut off. This is a piece of scrap metal that I had, so I'm now putting it to use. I could have used just a flat piece of steel in this, but I like the concave, the satellite dish shape, and I thought that that may give it a pretty cool look, so I decided to use this. Now, this guy right here, this is some of the leftover bar that I had for my air nozzles. And this is the 1/2 inch stuff. That's a 1/2 inch outer diameter. It's hollow and it's got a 3/8 inch hole on the inside of it. So this is actually going to be my handle for this thing. The way it's going to work is I've got a piece that I made. By the way, I need to say something here too. Notice the length of this, and then notice that this is a little bit longer and it protrudes further. That's on purpose. I took me some steel and I fabricated this guy right here. I'm going to let you see him. Rotate him around. And what he's going to do, I'm going to go back on to this side of the gasifier, and I'm going to push him out of the way. I'm going to bolt him to the back of the gasifier, to actually the wood hopper. I'm not going to weld him because I'm just going to put him on there with a couple of good heavy nuts and bolts, and he'll sit right there. Then of course, where this groove is right here, this pipe will put down into it, and then I'll tap a hole here and it'll be a screw, and of course that'll be a hinge. And it'll be a good, tight, heavy-duty hinge. That's why I decided to do that. I could have used a door hinge, but they had too much play in it. And what I don't want this thing doing is this right here or flopping around. I want it to be pretty much stringent. So when it's open, it's open, it's closed, and I didn't want any play into it. Now, I'm going to put me another little screw right here or some sort of eye loop right here for my spring. And right up here, I cut me a groove into this. This way the spring can be stretched, laid over here, and it'll snap in, and it can't slide off because that groove right there will hold it into place. So with that said, I'm going to pause the video and I'll bring you guys back in on the other side once I put this thing on and let you see it in action. Alright, I'm back and I've got all of the holes drilled and tapped, and the lid is now mounted on the gasifier. It is now functional. The only thing that I don't have on it is my tension spring that will keep the door pulled down to keep an airtight seal in this thing. I thought I had one on hand, and I didn't, so I'm going to go by the hardware store and pick one up tomorrow. Now the way this thing is going to work is I'm going to have a loop on top of the spring, so when I pull it up to get tension on it, he'll slide over, and I'm going to zoom in on the handle. What I did is I cut a notch out here, and that loop will slide on and he'll lock onto that. This way it can't accidentally fall forward and pop off while the thing is running and let oxygen get in where it shouldn't be. Now, I'm going to swing around here, let you get a good look at the hinge that I got on this thing. See how I've done this. The lid works really good on here. Now, as far as this metal piece here this guy's mounted to, I didn't weld him on here. What I did is I bolted him. Just used 2 1/4 inch bolts. It was more than enough. And didn't need to go overkill with the welder on this because for what I'm doing with it, this is more than enough to support the lid for this thing. But there it is. And I was thinking ahead of when I've done this also. Let me show you something here. First of all, I can just raise it up like a regular lid and load wood into the hopper. Or say I want to extend this thing and put another piece on it so that I can actually hold more fuel on it. All I got to do is leave them up, or I can just put them all the way out of the way and put an extension on this thing to bring more fuel into it if I decide to. So I decided to make this thing where it swing all the way back. But with that said, this thing actually came out really good and I'm extremely happy with it. Check this out. It's got a nice ring to it. There you go.